Just a quick update tonight, and as you can hear, the robins are singing. Thought I'd pop down tonight just to see how things are going, and as you can see the rhubarb's coming up. It's variable along the line here of the raised bed. You'll see some of them have come up very early. This one looks a little bit yellow. I'm going to be putting a little bit of gypsum down. A bit of magnesium helps with that. I think that's what may be causing the yellowing there. But if you come along here, you can see that some of them are only just coming up, depending on how they're catching the sun. But I did feed the bed quite well with some chicken manure, but all in all, fairly pleased. I've got several varieties of rhubarb going along here. There is red champagne and also Victoria, and I've also tried some Timperley early as well. So they're at various different stages. In order to unlock the fertility of the soil, if you're on heavy clay, you will need to use something like agricultural gypsum. This contains calcium oxide and sulfate, and basically also garden lime. The idea is it helps to break up very heavy soils, because a lot of the minerals available to plants can't reach the plants because of the structure of clay, but this will help to break it up. You have to keep applying it, and one of the ways in which you can tell that you got such soil is on the soil test, which I'll show you. I'll also show a pH test, but also yellowing of leaves, and particularly in fruit trees, I found could be cured on this soil by using this conditioner. If you don't use this and you just use ordinary fertilisers, they won't work on their own. You've got to break up the soil. This is the first time I've managed to get this red currant to the situation I want it to be in, really opened up into a goblet shape, as you can see, going deep into the structure here. You want to encourage, like these young shoots to come up, and you need the airflow. It's had its sprays, okay, and basically it's now ready for the buds to burst. So that's the first time I've been happy with the pruning of my red currant. This black currant shows what I've had to do by backtracking and basically by cutting out a lot of the old wood here, right down in the base of the crown. You can see to the right of those three cut stalks there is some young growth coming up, the pencil thin growth there, which I put in the middle of the frame, okay, and that's what you're trying to encourage basically. So you're looking along the line here now of my soft fruit bushes. There's three at the front which are white currant, and then you're moving into black currant, and then the ones with the more sort of reddy stalks is red currant, and these are all along the line here, and basically hoping the pollinators come along here, and also moving along on the allotment past strawberry bed here, which needs work. I'll have to lift up some of the runners. Basically there's another line of soft fruit here, and on the heavy soils here at the bottom it works particularly well, and I've had to shelter it on both sides with rubble netting, triple sheltered, triple layered. The kale is still growing strong from last year. It survived all of the worst of the ice and the snow. Very rich in calcium, kale, but if you have to watch calcium in your diet, it's one you have to have in moderation, because it is extremely high in calcium. With this Loganberry, the idea is to train up the young shoots from last year, so the canes are coming up, and you've got plenty to fruit on, because they'll be fruiting on these younger ones that are coming up. So unlike other plants where they're heavily pruned back, these ones you find some young ones, and obviously the old woody ones can be pruned out, but this one's got trained up. So hopefully, and I'll put this cross structure around it for it to grow up. I'm growing something which is almond, and the blossom's very, very beautiful. So this is a little cutting I've got, and it seems to have taken. So very pleased with that. This year I've transplanted a lot of raspberry canes all along the border between me and a neighbouring plot, and up against this rubble netting. And if you look closely, you might be able to make out that I've actually put it on as triple, and there's chicken wire behind it, and basically this helps with some wind protection You can create a frost pocket by doing it, but luckily in my case there's enough wind coming through and it's catching the sun here. So these raspberry canes have been put in over the last couple of weeks all along this line here, and they're young. I'm not sure if they will fruit this year because they're mostly 1 or 2 year old canes that have crept along from where I've transplanted raspberries before. But it's a good idea on heavy soils because they will crop, and they're quite disease resistant. These are more mature raspberry canes. They've been thinned out, old wood taken out, and now all that's required now is for supports to be put up before it gets too windy. But again, I've got rubble netting on one side to make wind protection with chicken wire on top of the fence. At the head of a river valley here, you get winds whipping down 60-70 miles an hour, so you need netting like this to stop things from blowing over. Even fences blow over here, so it lets the wind through, but breaks it up. So hopefully, once these are tied, I'll be happy. This year, I'll let you know how the garlic planting around the fruit trees pans out, and I've used it mostly around plum trees, which are very much attacked by ants. And also, if you've got any slabs on your allotment, like on mine, they're not concreted, I always lift them up and get rid of the ants' nests. I don't like ants' nests. They burrow under things like, see, strawberry beds down there. They'll burrow under a strawberry bed and they'll kill the plants. Here we have a pear tree. It's the last opportunity for me to plant down here on the river plain, and this one was $4.99. It's a Williams Bon Chrétien, one of the oldest and best loved of British dessert pears, early ripening and reliably delicious. Now I've got lots of other pears. The pollinating partners for this one would be, it says here, Burr Hardy or Concord, but it is also partly self-fertile. That's handy down here. And I've got other pear trees, of course, fruiting in October. You have to wait a couple of years before it fruits and will reach only 6 to 10 feet high. Pear trees are very manageable. They say you've got to watch for mildew and aphids. So I'll get this one planted, and basically, as you can see, it is alive. If you're going to buy roots, anything in bare rootstock which is wrapped such as this one, it's not in a pot. Be very careful. If it's been in the shop since about January, a lot of grafted trees by now will be dead, so you should ask the person who's selling it to you for a guarantee that if it's dead you can have your money back, because it's not your fault now. It's very late now for planting out fruit trees, pushing it in fact. Now then, the blackberries, although people assume going blackberrying is, you know, part of the preserve of enjoying yourself in the countryside, you still have to manage them. On the allotment, I've discovered old wood really needs cutting out, and you need to keep putting in your own cuttings. The reason is because in the wild, blackberry will itself put shoots under the ground. It will throw up runners underground, but also, of course, the birds will spread it with the seed that they eat, that they pass straight through. But if you don't put lots of young cuttings in, you'll get very old wood. That will be far less productive. Okay, and it's pretty hard work basically, I find, pruning these. You need a really decent pair anvil cutters, or of course the usual loppers. I've been using loppers on this. Lots of little young cuttings put in, and it is quite invasive, but on a very, very heavy clay soil plot like this one, where you're fighting pests and you've got to look at your crop rotation, it's a good choice. And you can see all the cuttings there, the softwood cuttings I've taken from there. That's mostly gooseberries, red currants, and of course the blackberries. The back of my plot where I've got some bird boxes, etc., I've also heavily cut back blackberries, and that's been worth doing and worthwhile, because if you don't, other weeds and things will choke them, and they need to have plenty of light. The same with any wild rock rose at the back. I've done the same prune there. This year I'm really hoping to get some crops from this Japanese wineberry. As you can see, I've staked up. I've used these plant ties you can get, and they're twistable, and put some canes in. And this has been in now. This will be its second year. This will produce these green leaves. Then you'll get these dense clusters of little white flowers, and then hopefully, if you're lucky, if they're pollinated, then you will get your little red berries for August. And it does spread, they say, so I'll have to contain it, but I have managed to do that here. Here we have an example of a gooseberry that I didn't prune correctly previously, but I've now opened the crown up, as you can see, and the idea to encourage young growth. Cut right back to just a few buds on the older wood to encourage younger shoots to grow up and allow some airflow. So along this particular bed here of soft fruits, that's what I've been attempting to do this year, and this means there's a chance for pollinators to get in and get out so that your fruit can be fertilised. Well, that's it for this evening. This is my sorrel, which has survived the winter very well, and hope for the future here. One of my cuttings, which is a fig, still in bud. A nice pink sunset there. The birds are singing, telling me it's time for me to go, I think. That's it for now then. Good evening, and I'll keep you updated with how things are going down the allotment soon. Well, he's enjoying himself showing off, isn't he, that wren?